Alright, boys and girls, welcome back. A little different view this time. This is my little shop in my basement. And I just wanted to revisit our reference sensor gapping because I still see a ton of questions on it all the time. So I'm just going to try to clarify it a little bit. This is the bench where I do a lot of my 3D printing projects. That's where the reference sensor tools came from. That's where my fuel fitting came from. Tinkering down here. So, quick overview. This is your reference sensor bracket. You can see on here, there's a hole and there's a slot. When this is bolted to the back of the flywheel, or back of the bell housing, or block, it bolts in like this, and it can pivot because of that slot. This is on the back of the engine, on the brake booster side, corner area over there, on the bell housing, way buried underneath. It's a lot easier to get to that with the intake manifold off. There's two reference sensors, same part numbers. Obviously I cut the wires off these for easier holding and doing stuff with them. They both fit in here. So when it's in your car, it's going to look something like that with screws holding those in. These tend to get stuck in this bracket all the years of heat, grime, everything else. They also have, I actually removed it off these, but in that slot right here, there's an O-ring that sits in there, so it keeps all the debris out, but I took it off of these just because I take them in and out of this bracket quite a bit. So for easy use, I take them out, but don't do that on your sensors. But just letting you guys know, that O-ring makes it 10 times harder to get these in and out. It corrodes, it swells, it gets stuck in there. So that's what it looks like. There's also, on late model ones, the factory made a change. There is a sleeve that covers most of this sensor. It's to reduce noise on startup to the sensor. It's a shield, pretty much. So if you are replacing yours and see you don't have that, I would recommend getting a bracket that does have that shield. Again, it's just a sleeve that goes over this, and this is machined a little bit bigger to accept the sleeve. Goes right in there, bada boom, bada bing. There's also the figure 8 washer. A lot of questions on, do I set my gap with this washer? Do I set my gap without this washer? We're going to go through that quick. And here's a tool that I make. You guys have seen it 1,000 times. I call it the P1. It's the first product I ever made to help you guys. It's technically one of these sensors with the 0.8 millimeters air gap that you need between this and the flywheel already built into it. So it's already gapped. You don't have to glue anything to this. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just drop the sensor in, bottom it out, and you're good to go. So here's the deal. What you're trying to do, let's say this plate is your flywheel. This bracket sits there like this. This flywheel has I think it's 2 or 3 set screws on it. The set screws have to have the proper gap between your sensor and the set screw. Too big, it won't read. Too close, it hits. So it has to have the proper height when you're setting it. That's why this bracket moves, yada, yada, yada. So what you do when you're setting your gap, I think these are only on the 944 turbos because they have a different diameter flywheel. They have this washer. When you're setting your gap, set your gap with your washer. Washer goes on the tool, sensor goes in, and I'm kind of just doing this quick and dirty. I'm not going to bolt anything down because I'm using one hand here. So now you've got your sensor, the washer, the whole thing on there. This would be sitting in the car like that. White plate is your flywheel. You'd basically move this bracket down until it bottoms out and then tighten it. Tighten the bracket so it doesn't move anymore. After that, you take this tool out, and then you could simply, again with the figure 8 washer, you can simply put your sensor back into the bracket and bolt it down. You're done gapping. In the past, you either had to glue a washer that was 0.8 millimeters on the bottom of your bad sensor, if you still had it, if you got it out in one piece, which most of the time you don't. Or you'd have to do this when the engine's off, take measurements with feeler gauges. It could be kind of a pain. A lot of guys used to glue stuff, but I don't like the gluing of the washer. They're not all right, and it's just a pain in the ass, and that just assumes you have one. But when you are setting your gap, if your car has the figure 8 washer, use the figure 8 washer. Why? Because if you set your gap without that washer, and you put this all in there and gap it, whatever, take this out, and then you put your washer in with the sensor, guess what? Your sensor moves away from the flywheel because of the space that the washer makes. So you're no longer in the right gap. So a lot of questions of, do I need this? Do I gap with this? If your car came with this, use it. And I believe it's only on 944 turbos, but I could be wrong. If you take a car apart and you have it on there, gap it with that. Super simple. The sensor tool, really easy. You can get them on 944store.com. They are made out of PETG. Should be pretty good weather resistance. Comes with the screw. Really durable. We've sold about 250 of these, so they're out there, and they go to good use, and it's a tool to help you guys with gapping this, making it super easy. When you get into this job, you'll see this is buried under the car. You got to lean over the whole engine to get to it, and it could just be a real pain in the ass. So this tool's nice and bright. You can see it when you put it in there, bolts right in, and it's really, it cuts down probably, I don't know, 25 minutes of the job of fiddling around, making sure this is right. You know, you just bolt this down, drop your bracket all the way down, you're done. Pull this out, put your new sensors in, you're good to go. So that's that. I just wanted to revisit that because I know there's some confusion. My other videos that showcase this, it wasn't super clear, but basically, plate your flywheel. These are your reference sensors, and you are setting the air gap between their set pins in the flywheel and the sensors. So that's the story. If you guys have any comments or questions, please post them. Other than that, my car is up and running, and the snow is going to be coming. It's getting cold out, but let's hang in there and get it done, boys.